Welcome to the Podcast, brought to you by Magnetic North Advisors. My name is Jason Priebe.
I'm Boniface.
And I'm Mike Challe.
And we're starting this show because we really like to hear ourselves talk. And we found that our clients typically ask a lot of the same questions, especially related to what's going on in the news and the current environment. And so we thought this would be a great way to answer some of those questions, get them out to all of our clients, get it out to anyone else who is listening here. Little background, a lot of our clients are entrepreneurs, small business owners, and so our hopes with this podcast is to help answer questions and go over what's going on in the current world events, right? And then blend that in with how we work with our clients, the financial planning process, and a lot of the common questions and problems that we solve for our clients. And so on that note, let's go ahead and let's get rolling into our first topic.
Yeah, first topic today we're going to talk about is labor force participation rate for workers ages 55 to 64. These are kind of the pre-retirees. And just wanted to touch on a huge uptick in that rate. Couple things at play here that you have to address. Number one, America's getting older, right? The boomers are in that age range, so just this pure number of workers is higher. But a lot of people are delaying retirement a little bit. We're going to talk later in the show about how millennials and younger people think retirement should be moved up earlier, but it's interesting that we don't see that in the data. And this demographic of workers 55 to 64 are pretty well off when you look at consumer balance sheets. You know, a lot of them own their own home. They don't have mortgages. If they do have a mortgage, it's probably a low interest rate. They've been saving for retirement, blessed with some really good years in the market, and a lot of them have pretty big 401k and IRA balances or investment accounts. So to see that many of them still working and pushing that retirement to 65 and even beyond, it is a little bit surprising. But one thing we notice with our clients is a lot of them, don't want to retire, right? They maybe want to phase out of work rather than just stop and find something new. One of the things we always say to our clients is retirement tends to be more of doing less of what you have to do and more of what you want to do. You guys, on your side, you guys have a lot of clients that are doing some part-time work in retirement as well, right?
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
I think this flies in the face of like the FIRE movement, right?
Mm-hmm.
The FIRE movement is retire early, right? Get done, be out of the labor force, and just sit on a beach.
What's wrong with that?
Not a lot, but maybe they get bored.
Yeah.
Also, what beach? Where's favorite beach?
One with sand. Any?
You got a favorite beach? If you're getting on an airplane and you're gonna go sit on the beach, where are you going?
Cabo. But there's probably beaches I haven't been to. I think Hawaii is really beautiful too.
Yeah.
So maybe Hawaii.
I mean, places I've been to, I'll say Marco Island.
Yeah.
Have you been to a
Marco
beach?
Island's beautiful.
You just stuck here in cold Minnesota. It's minus 5 degrees out. Are you
It's
gonna
beautiful.
Stay here?
It's balmy outside. It's
All right.
nice crisp air.
For all of you that don't know, Mike's hands are literally icicles.
I
So
walk around the office in my winter jacket, so
we do pay the heat bill around here.
Yeah. Couple client story I like to share about this kind of part-time retirement job is one of our well-off clients. His name's Doug. All he wanted to do was retire and ice fish. That's all he wanted to do. Sounds pretty great, right? One day he woke up, looked out at the lake, and he said, the last thing I want to do today is go ice fishing. Ended up going back to work, getting a job at Fleet Farm, selling ice fishing lures. He loves it, right? So I think this idea of people kind of phasing into retirement is something that's here to stay.
Go ahead.
Well, if you like what you do, work isn't a 4-letter word anymore,
Right.
right? It's doing something you enjoy and not something that you have to. And that's just a totally different mindset change. Working with financial independence because you want to is different because you need to do it to make ends meet.
I think we've seen the hybrid remote work also play a huge role in this,
Sure.
especially since COVID happened. We've got a client, married couple, they're about 10 years age difference. The wife retired, the husband was going to retire probably a little earlier than they should, but like they wanted to be able to go and enjoy life together. And he was stuck in the office. Well, COVID happened, everything went remote. He's still remote, and now he's not even planning on retiring when he should retire because he likes his job and it's got so much flexibility. They're constantly traveling at this point. So I think what we're going to continue to see is more and more flexibility, finding the role that really fits your lifestyle, finding a team you like working with. It's important to like the people you work with day in and day out. Finding a job that you like doing, right? That gives you all the feel goods. I know I have that here. I think you guys would both feel the same, right?
Yeah.
We love what we do. Yeah, it's work. Sometimes there's a lot to it. Sometimes there's days that we don't like as much as others. At the end of the day, I think we really like working with our clients. We really, really enjoy solving their problems, figuring out how to, get them those dreams that they've always had.
Yeah.
And so I think from that standpoint, that's one of the great things that we've seen happen with technology and with the transition and everything that's gone on is how much more flexibility there is in what you do, but also how you do it and even when you do it. No longer is it a 9 to 5.
Mm-hmm.
Go into the office, go into the big city, and sit in front of your desk all day. I mean, that's out.
Right. Yeah, and companies are a lot more flexible and allow you to do things. I think of some of our business owner clients who've spent years of their life building their business, and then all of a sudden, they sell it and they have plenty of money to not work anymore, right? But that drive of having some purpose or building something, and there's a lot of flexibility for that, right? I mean, maybe the new buyer of the company is going to let them stay on part-time and help with the transition, or, a 2-day-a-week consulting role or something like that, are all things. And then, Mike, we talked earlier about another huge point about having a part-time job, 20 hours a week, is that health insurance question.
Right.
How are you going to solve for that? Health insurance is not cheap if you don't have it through work, and it's not cheap if you have it through work either. But, 20-hour job a week at Costco can do a lot for a retirement plan, right? More than just the income, just the reduction in the health insurance cost.
Absolutely.
All right, so we were just talking about how the baby boomers are working longer. Well, the younger generations have some thoughts about that.
What are their thoughts?
It's funny you ask. 51% of millennials and Gen Z want to lower the full retirement age, and 6 in 10 say it shouldn't just be lower, but it should go down to 60 or I guess even lower.
Wow.
What do you guys think?
All right. First question on this is, we're starting to live longer, so shouldn't the retirement age be going up? Second question, what does the retirement age even matter? Social Security is not enough to live on. So if you're retiring early at all, you got to have other assets saved up. So aren't we just kind of like having like this questionnaire seems like something that's just meant to create a headline and do nothing at all.
I would agree. In fact, I'm kind of unsure the respondents even knew what full retirement age is. So it's like walking up to someone on the street. It's like, hey, you want the retirement age to be lower? Yeah. What age? Okay, cool. How old are you? Yeah.
Survey data is always a little iffy to look at. You look at even how they ask the question, right? To what age should full retirement age be lowered? I wonder if they didn't have the lower in there, if they didn't frame it saying lower it. But still interesting in light of like what we're seeing today, right? I mean, you're seeing people work longer. And yeah, like Jason said, Social Security is not your retirement income. Social Security is a safety net. It's insurance. So it's interesting to see young people rely on it. I think a lot of this stems to poor financial education in schools too. I doubt 51% of millennials know what the full retirement age is in the first place, like Mike said.
Do you think the 6 and 10 who are saying it should be changed or be lower are also planning and saving in accordance with that, or?
I think they're relying on Social Security.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so too.
They're just hoping they can get more so they can quit earlier.
Right.
Yeah. Along that line, though, of retiring, I think one of the topics actually just came up this week for us, right? We had a prospect give us a call, say, hey, I've never worked with an advisor. I got your name, and I'm retiring in a year. That's sentence number one. They follow that up with, but I don't know how much I can live off of, or how much I have, or how much money I need. My first thought is always, how do you know you're retiring in a year
Right.
if you don't know the answer to the second question? So, when should people be reaching out and figuring out when they're retiring in that retirement plan?
I would say 5 years minimum, maybe 10. Earlier the better, in my opinion. I mean, I like to think of financial planning kind of like a game of chess, right? You want to win the long-term game. It's important to set the board right early and make sure that you have your pieces set up so you can win in the future, right? You have optionality, you have choices. So when life throws stuff at you, you can adjust and take advantage of opportunities and avoid challenges. But that's harder to do for most people, and a lot of times it's too late. So I would say, 10 years at least.
Yeah.
5 at the very, very minimum. But yeah, we have people come to us all the time. They come to us too late, and it's like, well, there's not really much I can do about it now, right?
The reality is, for this prospect, they're not coming to us and are unable to get advice on how do we make slight adjustments to our plan in order to retire at this time. They're coming to us after the fact, so rather than making slight adjustments to their savings plan before they retire, we're having to make the adjustments as to how much they can spend after they retire if they're dead set on retiring, or maybe they don't have a choice and they do have to retire. Maybe they got a health issue going on or something like that, right? And so I think it just completely changes the first step of the process. And I do think it's really important. I think there's a lot of people out there who don't necessarily work with an advisor for many, many years because they've learned the basics, they know how to save, they're doing a good job saving, and the thing they don't understand is the transition. They don't know, okay, I've done all this saving, I've got the big pot of money, how do I make it work for me now that I'm not going to have an income? And so I don't blame a lot of people for having that mentality. I think that's a perfectly normal mentality. I think we just have to understand, if we're going to be planning, we've got to be looking ahead. We've got to be giving us a 5 to 10 year runway. Have the simple conversations early so that if there are some adjustments that need to be made on a 10-year runway, it's usually a very minimal adjustment if you've been doing the basics for the last 15, 20, 30 years of your life.
For sure. Yeah, how often do you see a client come to you, ask if they can retire, and all their money's in pre-tax, and
Right.
they have no tax diversity, nothing like that. You don't buy insurance after your house burns down. Kind of how I look at that, right?
It just
Start
changes.
preparing now.
The earlier you meet with someone and talk about it, you can fix it, and it changes the conversation, and it's just easier. It's not about adjusting down and finding what you can spend, but if you know you are going to want to live a certain retirement, they can help get you there, and you can have the important conversations ahead of time about what you want. It's kind of about figuring out what you want your retirement to look like, not being told, well, this is what I have, so this is what it can look like.
And if you're out there listening right now and you haven't figured out how much you can live off of, and you are going, I'm less than 10 years from when I want to not work, don't procrastinate anymore. Just, go out there and get it done. I think, what is it, Warren Buffett quote you always kind of talk about, when's the best time to invest?
Yeah, best time to invest is 10 years ago. The second best time is today. Same thing with financial planning. Best time to start a plan was, 5, 10 years ago. The second best time is right now. If you don't have one, you should meet with an advisor and make one.
Absolutely. Along that lines, kind of spinning that also beyond just, retiring as a whole. If you're a small business owner, this becomes even more of a heightened sense of awareness. Selling a business does not happen overnight. There are so many things to think about when selling a business, not just who's going to buy it, how much you're going to sell it for, but there is a huge difference in how you structure a deal and how much money you put in your pocket after Uncle Sam takes his share.
For sure.
If you plan. And if you're selling a business, that's a 10-year runway minimum. I mean, 10 years of planning. If we get a client that gives us 10 years of planning, and that doesn't mean you're thinking about selling it tomorrow. That literally means just start walking through the process of who may be interested in buying this, how much might I sell this for, and what types of terms would we be looking at. Those vary drastically depending on the type of business, the industry, who you're selling it to, and all of those have really big impacts as to how much that actually puts into your pocket after you pay taxes.
Yeah, for sure. And business owners especially, we see we feel like we bring them a lot of value, almost being their financial quarterback, making sure that they have good qualified CPAs to help them with sales structure and their tax structure, getting estate attorneys involved. Maybe there's some sort of trust or estate planning strategy that should be used with the business sale, things that get you after tax wealth, because ultimately that's what we're going after, right? You can have $1 million, but if the IRS takes half of it, well, you don't have $1 million.
Right. Absolutely. All right, what else do we got?
Couple notes. Social Security. You see these stats all the time. Everyone thinks Social Security is going away, and especially younger people. What do you think, Mike? You think you'll get a Social Security check?
Yeah, I think Social Security will exist. I think it will look different. Mm-hmm. When is it due to run out of money if no changes are made? I don't know.
That 2030 something.
There's a date out there. So obviously there's changes coming, or it'll just run out. But no, I do think there'll be something.
And I think we should clarify what run out means. I mean, I think that gets tossed around in headlines a lot. When we hear something something has to happen to Social Security because it's insolvent, and we're going to run out of money, is the common quote we hear. Mm-hmm. That doesn't actually mean there's not going to be Social Security and there's not going to be any Social Security left. We collect Social Security every single year from people. And right now, what is it? 75-80% of all Social Security that is paid out to everyone is collected in the same year. So when we say run out, if nothing happens, it really just means everyone's going to get a reduction of their Social Security benefits by, call it 25%. We're using really round numbers here. Yeah. Not that Social Security is going to go from whatever you're at now to zero. It just means it's going to be decreased.
Or taxed differently, right? I mean, the other thing they could do is semi-means test Social Security, where if you have your income, if your retirement income's over $200,000, well, we're going to tax your Social Security at maybe 120% of your Social Security will be taxable income or something like that. So there'll be ways that they fix it or
phase out.
I think, and the problem with Social Security running out of money isn't necessarily the retirement benefits. It's all of the other disability benefits and
right.
things like that. We don't need to get into that, but it's interesting to see this data from this survey here, though, about with the Gen Z and millennials talking about how many of them think that Social Security is going to replace a lot of their income. When you look, it's over 35% of millennials are expecting Social Security to play a very big role in their retirement income. And Social Security does play a huge role in people's retirement, right. But that better not be all you have, because 40 grand doesn't get you as far as it used to today's world.
If you're a Gen Z or a millennial and you're listening to this, I think the best guidance we can give you without knowing your situation and giving you actual advice is you should be saving 20 to 30% of your income every single year. That will get you within the guardrails of retiring within the realm of most people wanting to retire between 55 and 65. Right?
Let you get to that 60 or lower number you guys are all talking about out there.
That will get you there.
5% is not going to do it. Putting 3% in your 401k to get the match is not going to do it.
No.
And then, like we talked about earlier, making sure your board's set up right, making sure that you have tax diversity and you have not too much debt and, that, at least high interest debt, making sure that, if you have student loans, you're paying those off and you're not kicking that can down the road because that can ruin plans too. All things that Gen Z and millennials should be thinking about today.
So, along that, will Social Security exist? It'll exist. I wouldn't plan on it being exactly what it is today. But it'll obviously help your plan at some point. And the nice thing about it is if you're keeping your savings so you're within those guardrails, you'll have the flexibility at the last 5 to 10 years we just discussed to be able to make the adjustments we need based on where Social Security is at when you are 5 to 10 years from retirement. Because I think one thing, without getting political, we know Washington is a mess, right? But
That's
the one
one
thing
word.
we have confidence, I think we can say we have confidence in, is that once people get closer to the age of actually utilizing those benefits, those social benefits of Medicare, Social Security, right? We know that Washington is aware enough to know they can't mess with those because that would have too much of an impact on too many people without time to adjust.
Yeah, they lose their job, right?
Right.
If you vote to get rid of Social Security, you're probably not going to get reelected.
Right.
Ultimately, people who are on Social Security and Medicare are the largest percentage of people who vote. So, good luck taking that benefit away and getting reelected. So when it comes down to it, yeah, they'll fix it.
And it doesn't take a lot. I think we talked about it. Oh, everyone wants social, full retirement age lowered, right? I think the reality is it's probably going to get raised a little bit. I think the other reality is they might have to raise the Social Security tax ever so slightly, maybe 0.5%.
Yeah.
Most of those things would fix the Social Security solvency overnight, and I don't think it's something that would be a major impact to any of us who are paying taxes already.
Right.
But it just goes to show that the news media is out there to generate headlines. It's not out there to solve your problems, and so don't get caught up. Don't get overwhelmed in what's going on in the what headline you read. Most headlines are meant to.
It's an attention grab.
They want you to click the ad.
Going to click it.
They want to make your heart rate go a little bit faster and stress out and be like, oh, I got to read this. I got to see what's going on. What? Oh no, right?
They want you to click that banner ad and go buy whatever product they're advertising on their website.
Negativity sells.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Well, and fear too.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, and that's cutting down to it. You're going to click it if you have fear about, if you're living on Social Security and they're talking about it being insolvent in the 2030s, you're like, oh, whoa. So,
Absolutely. Yeah. What else we got today?
Moving on to the next topic, which is kind of related, talking about younger people. The percentage of Americans that own stocks is at an all-time high. Just under 60% of Americans owning stocks today, which is a good thing, right? I mean, that's going back to what we're talking about. I mean, that means people are starting earlier, which is what they need to do. Younger investors starting to buy stocks, and there's another chart in here. Not just in retirement accounts either. They're getting some non-qualified assets, which helps plan a ton, especially if they want to retire before that 60 age that they were bringing up earlier. So just kind of wanted to touch on what's causing this, right? Obviously, Robinhood and other free trading apps have a huge impact on getting younger people investing, and hopefully they're not over trading. But what are your thoughts on that?
I think a lot of people downloaded it, like Robinhood, Schwab, all of those. Well, I think all of them now are no transaction costs. So I think a lot of that happened during COVID. You can see the graph, the spike. More time on their hands, people reading Reddit and
Right. AMC.
GameStop,
hopefully this little spike isn't all AMC and GameStop shares.
I'm curious though. I do think it's because a lot of people had time on their hands. I wouldn't be surprised if it leveled off.
And we had a good couple years after COVID in the market there, so a lot of it might be media attention. I mean, if you look back, further back in the chart, you see the other time it spiked was 1998, 1999, right into the tech bubble. Right. It's in people's face. So FOMO, fear of missing out, right? Everyone wants to be a part of it. And then interesting enough, if you go into the middle section of the chart, you look at what 2007, 2008 did to the percentage of Americans that own stocks, and it took it down, made people afraid, which the people who sold out and stopped owning stocks in those time periods are definitely disappointed that they did. So sticking with the market is important. Another question kind of related to this is, you think some of this actually might be a negative if some of these people are overtrading and losing money? Think it might turn them off to the stock market in the future? I'm
curious to see the holding period of some of these new. I think it can be answered if you saw the holding period of the stocks. But Jason, I know you had something to say there too.
I think this is really interesting. I think it got a lot more people into investing and into thinking about their future and thinking about how you can make money without having to work, right? That's what investing really is. It's owning something that is always working for you even when you're not. I love to see that the percentage of U.S. households owning stocks has gone up. And I think it started from all the craze of AMC and GameStop, right? But I think it's shifting. And do one of you guys have the graph of the amount of individuals that went from DIY investing and are now working with an advisor? We had that graph, right?
We're going to talk about that.
Are we talking about that next week? All right. Yeah, I'm getting way ahead of ourselves.
This guy's a professional. Episode 1, and he's teasing the next one. Come on.
Next time, we're going to bring up a chart that talks about the amount of DIY investors, percentage of DIY investors versus those utilizing an advisor. And really, really interesting stats. I can honestly say I was shocked to see it.
I was too.
So I'm really excited to go over that next week and kind of take a deeper dive into that. And I think that directly relates to what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
I think it's a good thing. And I think we're seeing a very positive transition that we'll talk about next time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I think we've noticed it. This trend firsthand too, on the tax side of the business, doing some of our clients' kids' taxes and seeing all those Robinhood trades of 0.6 shares here and there, and it's good to see. You just worry about the holding periods, like Mike said, and the over trading. And
I think a lot of people had a little bit more of a tax liability than they might have anticipated
if they sold.
Right. Yeah.
Some of them might have a couple tax loss carry forwards.
Right. And depending, but.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. One more topic today, just kind of for fun. We have this video game engagement chart up on the screen here. Since we were talking about different generations and things like that, we thought it might be fitting, just as kind of a fun topic here.
What's the most interesting stat you saw from this?
Right off the bat, baby boomers, 47%. Baby boomers identified as born between 1946 and 64. 47% of them playing video games? That's about 47% more than I would have thought.
Jason plays video games?
Are you 59 to 65?
You cannot quite count me there.
You look pretty decent for that.
I mean, if I look this good when I'm that old, I'll be happy.
Yeah, no, fair play. But that one was, for me, the most...
I mean, that's pretty impressive. I suppose the biggest thing that I'm thinking of, like, when I think of gaming, the first thing I think about is, like, a PlayStation or Xbox.
Yeah.
And I think from reading into these stats, it goes beyond PlayStation, Xbox, and it includes the games on our mobile devices. But even then, I'm pretty surprised.
They also, not surprisingly, had like the least engagement in video games outside of playing. So like,
Right.
whereas millennials, Gen Z, they'll like watch Twitch streams and like interact kind of more with games. The baby boomers, they're just like, let's just play a little bit.
That's what surprised me the most about this is just how many people actually view video games. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, esports is blowing up. It's quite a thing. Hopefully these kids are getting outside and touching some grass here and there, though.
Yeah.
I'm well aware my kids like gaming.
You said
I almost
restrictions?
say they watch kids playing games more than they play them.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't get it.
my oldest loves watching Fortnite videos. He's probably grown out of that a little bit now, but there was a moment in time where I felt like he was watching more Fortnite videos of people playing Fortnite than he was playing it himself.
He was studying.
He's pretty good at it. I mean, I can't even remotely do what he does.
No. I'm sure you've tried.
It's very frustrating.
You get on there.
I feel like a baby boomer when I attempt to play
Yeah.
some of those games. They are just
You have any solo wins?
right over my head. Not a chance.
Best finish.
Best finish is probably like, I don't know, how many do you start with? 100?
100.
Yeah, I think my best finish is probably like 91.
Oh, man.
It's bad.
Over under 10 seconds.
He sat on the bus until it made him jump off, probably.
Pretty much.
You deployed the parachute.
I think there was one time where I tried playing it with them, and I think they took me out before I even hit the ground.
Oh, man.
So don't wait to jump off the bus until the very end.
Yeah.
It's not a good strategy.
Oh, man. Yeah, it's crazy to see. Didn't Josh, when Josh was out in Vegas, when he took his kids out there,
They were doing gaming,
they were
live
still
streaming
live.
gaming out there. Yeah,
they went and watched
Don't they
people
have
play video games out there?
what do they call that out there? They have like a gaming arena, don't they?
I don't know. Can you
Like
bet on it?
esports? I don't know what it is.
Esports?
I don't know.
no
It's
idea.
pretty awesome. Anyways, I hope you guys all enjoyed this podcast, episode 1. We're really excited to roll into the next episode and keep growing this and hopefully getting questions answered. If you have any questions or comments or topics you'd like to see or hear about, shoot us comments and we'd love to talk about it.
Yeah. Thanks, guys.
Until next time, this is the Podcast.